welcome, my friend. You had a lot of jobs going into this process. The minister's giving you another one to work with New South Wales manufacturers to innovate to meet this crisis. Can I ask, you're now stationed at the bunker, the old RFS bunker, in the middle of what's happening. How do you sort of describe the general governance response to this so far?
I think the governance response has been quite strong, both here at the state level as well as feeding into the national cabinet. I think there's been really clear leadership from the national level. The state premier here in New South Wales, Gladys Berejiklian, has really responded to the nuances that exist in New South Wales compared to other states, I think, incredibly well. You can see that our health-focused response has flattened the curve. That curve needs to stay flatter for a lot longer. So whilst the early stage interactions and I think also saying a big thank you to the public for following our recommendations will also mean that will mean that we get that good health outcome. But this is going to last a little bit longer, and we're going to have to adapt to different living arrangements for the foreseeable future.
You don't have much to do on the Minister for Tourism front at the moment, but other things in the meantime. But putting on your Minister for Western Sydney hat and Jobs and Investment, the Premier's got you doing a special role at the moment to face the crisis, but I assume you're also part of the team that's working on the other side of the bridge theory, the economic recovery to this. You, Western Sydney, are you noticing any particular impact, negative in the first place, or extra role in recovery? Where does the Greater West fit with the next phase of this pandemic?
Well, I think the strength and the weaknesses of the state economy play out in Western Sydney in more magnified ways in many respects. So the weak points around the service economy being, quite frankly, hammered by COVID-19 really plays out in Western Sydney, where we have a lot of people who work in the service economy, work in retail, work in hospitality. So those workers have been incredibly disrupted and dislocated from their employment. It's good to see that between the Commonwealth and the state governments, funding is being pumped in to support those people as much as we can during this period of time where they're heavily disrupted. But also the strengths of the Western Sydney economy, construction, infrastructure, are going to play an incredibly important role both now in underpinning the fundamentals of the state and the Western Sydney economy, and they'll be crucial into the future. So those areas that Western Sydney is exposed on, we're feeling the pain. Those areas where Western Sydney has been a shining light over the last few years, particularly on the infrastructure agenda, they are going to be more important now than they've ever been.
To that point, the government's just announced happily that they're bringing forward the tunnelling contracts for the Western Metro, which is, as you spoke about, while we've got an exposure to workers on a casual basis, or a lot of the immediate job impacts. The great shining light has been the infrastructure pipeline. Should all of us out in the Western Sydney community have a view that have any concern about the big infrastructure projects, the Greater West Metro, the Western Metro, the great suite pipeline of projects that's been planned, or do you see them coming forward rather than being held back because of financial constraint?
Well, we'll want to spend money where we generate jobs. So infrastructure is a great place to do that. It also helps avoid liquidity traps for government, where the value of debt is harder for people to keep rather than cash, for instance. Not that we're facing those liquidity trap issues, but investing in infrastructure is definitely a way of avoiding that. We also know infrastructure has strong multipliers in the economy around the people it employs, the supply chains that it underpins. So it makes complete sense that for projects that are underway, don't even contemplate downing tools, keep those going. Where projects are in the delivery pipeline and they're well advanced around planning, design, and contract awarding is close, I think we want to press ahead with those. For projects that are a little bit further down the pipeline, the one thing you might do is consider evaluating those against projects that can be delivered in the more near term, so more mid-sized projects that are really about underpinning the economic recovery coming out of this COVID crisis to really ensure that we get jobs back up and going again. So there are a lot of people who have lost their job over the last few months. More will lose their job as well. So when we step onto that pathway of recovery, the way we think about leveraging our infrastructure agenda to really drive jobs growth is going to be absolutely critical. I don't think we'll lose any projects at all. I think it'll be more about bringing them forward, or where we might have projects that slide a little bit further out in time, they'll be replaced, or that funding will be reallocated to a project that can be delivered faster. So the infrastructure narrative is really go harder, go faster, and make it all about jobs, jobs, jobs.
There's a lot of jobs in the balance at Olympic Park. You've got a project in front of government that's ready to roll, the Ayres Convention Centre. You've got ANZ Stadium, the forever will she, won't she, when will she, how will she project that's ongoing. Where do you think those two sit as potential economic stimuli?
Well, I think these will be any new projects or projects that are in their early stage work, like the Agricultural Society has been through sort of early gateway assessment. If there's an opportunity to bring that forward and assess it against other projects, I come back to my earlier comments about the projects that generate jobs will be the ones that we'll be looking to invest in. So I'm sure that they'll definitely be assessed in that context. And I think that infrastructure has to be a key focus around job creation.
Western Sydney coming out of this, what do you imagine economically in your jobs and investment role that we're different? I mean, is there really the call now to accelerate the possibility of advanced manufacturing, the smart knowledge basis for the West, that you're on track before, but surely COVID-19 has probably given that a sharper focus?
Well, what I think is important here is that we don't lose the fundamental principles that the government had already adopted. The concepts of precinct developments, the concept of focusing on areas where we have a natural competitive advantage should still be core policy principles. What we can do is try to accelerate the delivery of those where that delivers a strong jobs outcome. So the work that's being done around the Aerotropolis, the delivery of the North-South rail line or Greater West Metro to link the Aerotropolis to existing rail structures will be important. What we do around enabling works to try and bring some of the Aerotropolis core online earlier and make it an attractive investment proposition beyond our early stage MOU partners and investors, I think is a ready-made economic development play. The other precincts that are important in Western Sydney as part of the government strategy, Westmead Health and Education Precinct and that Westmead North Parramatta area is one that we'll definitely want to have a good look at, see if we can bring that forward. These principles around precincts being at the forefront of economic development work for us. We know Sydney Olympic Park continues to be a strong precinct for investment. And then you've got good rail and transport connectivity, plus the releasing of industrial land where there is constraint around supply. And right now, demand might be flat in this somewhat artificial economic contraction where government has made a series of conscious decisions to slow the economy down to fight the health cause. I think on the way out of this, you'll see the pendulum swing back the other way, where governments will be looking to make more aggressive economic decisions to drive economic activity, and releasing industrial land, I think, will become a core part of that.
Was the member for Penrith, Minister for Western Sydney, you must be pretty excited that the Eels finished the competition in first place after 2 rounds so far. Do you think the Panthers will get a chance to chase them down? Do you expect we'll see rugby league in the 2020 season playing again somewhere probably based in Western Sydney?
I'm hopeful that all of the national sporting competitions get up. Only a Parramatta fan would say the season had finished after 2 rounds, but I think the rest of us.
When you finished on top, we're happy. We'll cop it there. They stole us from Liverpool. We'll take the Eels victory where we can.
But I'm very hopeful that that the NRL will find a way to come back, whether it's in the next couple of months or whether it's a little bit later in the year. I do think we'll see an NRL season. I'm not sure what exactly it will look like, but I think we will see a season, albeit a constrained and contracted one. But I'm sure footy fans will be able to barrack for their teams as loudly and as passionately as you do for the Eels and I do for the Panthers.
And if we don't shout out to the Giants, Shep will kill us both. So we hope we get some play there as well. Just in closing, we're all social isolating. When your partner's the Federal Minister for Foreign Affairs, you normally don't see a lot of the best travelled woman in the world, but I imagine there's a bit more stay-at-home currently. Where are you? What's your favourite takeaway in Penrith for you two now, and what are you watching on Netflix?
I think it's a close run thing between El Jinnah on High Street Penrith and the Thai in Mulgoa, not far away from home. So those two are getting a fair workout at the moment. So good to be supporting those local businesses. I think we're catching up on a few movies when we're at home. It is nice to have Maurice home at night, which we don't see too often, but we're both pretty busy during the day. As you mentioned earlier, I'm spending most of my days here in our state emergency team at RFS. The morale here is really good. Great group of dedicated, not a massive team, but a very small dedicated team really driving the emergency response. Maurice is obviously dealing with lots of Australians overseas at the moment, which is both high profile and incredibly challenging. So we're sharing the cooking duties. There's a roster for who does dinner, no matter what time you get home. So no shirking of the task there. But it's been we're adapting like everyone else is adapting.
And you're excited. The only sport still really happening is the horses. So you still get to get a bet on a Saturday.
Well, I have to say that I'm looking forward to the second day of the championship. So. I've tried to structure my Easter weekend with a few hours off on Saturday afternoon, so I can enjoy the fantastic racing that's at Randwick. And the sooner we can get people back into those events, whether it be AFL, NRL, visiting Rose Hill, Warwick Farm, even a great business that's based in Western Sydney now, like Inglis, has had to adapt with their Easter sale. Normally, the Riverside sales complex would be absolutely humming over these couple of days, but they've adapted. They've found a way to make their business work, and I'm really proud to see how Western Sydney businesses have innovated, how they've altered the delivery of their services, their products, how they've really worked hard to keep employees on. That sort of roll up your sleeves, get on with it, can-do attitude that has just been a cornerstone of Western Sydney for so many years, I think is really shining brightly at the moment.
Good luck and stay safe, mate. They say Easter's a great time for resurrection. So I don't know if you've got a tip for us for day 2 of the championships?
I haven't done the form yet, but my tip on resurrection is the New South Wales economy.
Back it in strong.
The heartbeat is very strong. It's very resilient. And the work that we're doing now is really, I think, giving people great confidence that the foundation is not just a foundation, but a really strong launch pad for success.
I feel sorry for politicians. The only ones that still have to wear a tie during the time of pandemic. So good luck and Godspeed, mate. Keep Maurice safe.
Thank you.